So after a long road, I've gotten a chance to test a bunch of skill tree nodes. I'm happy with some, regret others, and just embarrassed by some of them. And since launch, there has been a bunch of info made available on what nodes are worth your points and what nodes are best never to be talked about again. Let's get started. So a little over a month ago, I made my build, prediction, and guide video on the various skill tree nodes that I would be going after and how to approach figuring out what's best for your playstyle. Since then, I've gotten a chance to test out a lot of different nodes, play with plenty of you who went in other directions, and seen side-by-side comparisons other creators have put up. Whether you're looking for info on how to tackle the re-spec coming from the expedition, or if you're new to the game, I'm going to be going over the build I'll be re-speccing into, in the order I'll likely be taking them in, then I'll come back, talk about the nodes I didn't fill out or avoided altogether. I'll also be showing on screen side-by-side comparisons of the relevant nodes, and if my information is based on another video, I'll have them linked down below that I really recommend you see for yourself. With all of that out of the way, let's get rolling. The first thing you should shoot for is in-raid crafting. Even at max level, it continues to get value, let alone for when you're starting off with less resources in your stash. Bandages are good, but shield rechargers are always going to remain useful. This allows you to remain supplied while minimizing the items you risk. And next, I'll refer to these two as the stamina twins. It's 11 points total, 10 for the node, and 1 for the toll cost, but the return on investment is significant. Between these three nodes, you're spending a total of 14 points, and honestly, you're gonna have a hard time building a good build without including them. This isn't just because the impact that they make, which is significant, but also how easily they can be reached. The remaining three minor early nodes in the mobility tree are all pretty poor point investments. I'll get into the details as to why later. Carry the momentum, however, is pretty damn strong. After a roll, it gives you roughly 3 seconds of sprinting for no stamina cost. That's pretty good, but it's going to be up to you if or when that's worth putting effectively 5 points into it. But don't feel like you need to work your way to it just yet. I feel Looter's Instincts needs to be filled out sooner rather than later. It has turned out to be pretty critical to my survival. I see the benefit consistently, but the one key use case I can always rely on its benefit is being able to strip a body clean for meds to quickly continue a fight. Between weapons, augments, armor, ammo, quick use items, and whatever else they've picked up, it's reasonable to use the example of a raider's body having roughly 20 items on average. This means you'll be able to strip a body clean in 15 seconds instead of 20. This also reduces the time it takes for you to clear a room, leaving you vulnerable for a shorter window of time. After that is maxed out, you might be inclined to go back and finish getting carry the momentum, but that's mostly preference at this point. Silent Scavenger. Testing has shown the primary thing this affects is the distance at which your looting can be heard, and the difference in set distances are unimpressive. The additional benefit seems to be less noise pollution on your end, so that's a plus, I guess. Getting to 15 points here, however, is about picking your poison. I'll probably go with Revitalizing Squat. The security lockers have been nerfed since I've made my last video, but it's still the single strongest node in the tree, and there's a lot of strong nodes you can pick up on your way to it. While it's not game breaking like it used to be, it's still a source of consistent loot. It turns already good POIs into better ones, while making POIs that would normally be skipped over into worthwhile visits. Much like the crafting in Raid, the sooner this is unlocked, the more value you will get out of it. With that being said, here's the path I would take for the most effective use of your points as you're working your way there. Others have tested Agile Croucher and shown it to be not impressive, so in order to get the first 15 points, I'll fill in Silent Scavenger as far as I need to because I've never been in a situation where I've wished I could crouch walk ever so slightly faster, but I do acknowledge the distribution here is mostly a preference. From here, I pick up Suffer and Silence first because I want to max out Broad Shoulders and Looter's Luck quickly, but not before I make a quick pit stop at Traveling Tinkerer first. Traps are extremely useful, especially if you run solo a lot. Traveling Tinkerer gives you more options, but it also makes in-raid finds like gas and lure nades more useful by being able to stick a laser beam on an entryway. If you place them well, no one will be able to tell what kind of trap it is, so no matter what, it'll slow someone down while they try to clear it at the very least. After this, I max out Broad Shoulders. This is another node that gets more value the earlier you get it. You should honestly be rolling blue augments really easily. My looting and stash guide breaks down just how easy they are to maintain, but this node increases your capacity by a flat 10 kilograms when maxed, which is significantly more effective when you haven't gotten to the point where you're running purple augments on a regular basis. Looter's Luck is basically a compounding effect on Looter's Instinct. It's not as consistent, but very noticeable nonetheless. Alright, from here, it's going to be up to you how to spend the next 9 points before being able to unlock security lockers. Before I get into how I plan on doing it, if you've made it this far, you should hit that like button, and I'd like to ask you to consider hitting that subscribe and notification button as well. Thank you so much for your consideration, and now back to the video. Out of all the available nodes I could spend points on at this point, I've previously gotten more value out of 3 deep breaths than anything else. So I'm going to get Good as New and Stubborn Mule in order to get to it to max it out. If you didn't know, 3 deep breaths should really read, reduces the time it takes for you to recover from exhaustion. The baseline recovery time is 3 seconds and 5 points gets you down to 1. This is pretty significant. Stuff happens and you can find yourself running out of stamina, but a full 66% reduction in recovery time is a good investment no matter what you think of the skill. Now personally, I make it a point of not allowing myself to be over encumbered. I don't like being that immobile, so Stubborn Mule really doesn't have a lot of value for me, but I see it as being more useful than Silent Scavenger at this point. If you're finding yourself regularly fat and full of loot to the point where Stubborn Mule is getting value, then you're probably doing really well anyways, and this node will probably help you win even harder. Pick up Security Breach at this point, and if you haven't gotten Carry the Momentum yet, now might be the time. After that, we're moving on to the conditioning tree. On the screen, you're going to see what Used to the Weight looks like with 0 points and with 5 points with heavy shields. It's not very impressive over short distances, and if you're not a fan of heavy shields to begin with, you can leave it at 1 point since the effect on medium is pretty minimal. If you like heavy shields and get to the point where you run it often, you might want to prioritize this sooner though. With the stamina perks, the differences start to stack up over time. Next, Proficient Prior is the node I max out. Gentle Pressure has the same issues as Silent Scavenger, and testing has shown it is not impressive. I move over to fill up Fight or Flight, which is actually a good return on your point investment for the remainder of the 15 points. From here, I'd like to push for Loaded Arms. Loaded Arms is pretty strong. For a single point, the weapons in your equipped slot count as being half their weight. However, I am spending a collected 3 points for it. If your average is 6 kilos of weight savings, it has the exact same value as Broad Shoulders. Sure, a little extra is a nice perk to have and it only costs 1 point. It drops basic materials every time you breach something, acting kind of like a pocket scrappy, but it's really not something I'd go out of my way to get. And since Unburdened Roll doesn't affect sprint rolls, it's not really as useful as it may seem. So I'm gonna go with Survivor Stamina. It's a niche use node, but at least I can see this being more useful than Unburdened Roll, so I wanna at least get some value out of the point I'm spending. From here, I max out Fight or Flight, and you got roughly 2 points to spend on pretty much whatever you want. When I get to this point, it'll be another 70-ish levels from now, so who knows if my opinions will change by then. Now, if you're coming up on the expedition and looking where to put those 5 extra points, you're going to run into a bit of an issue. But I'll get into why here in a little bit. Before going over the nodes I'm not a fan of, I'm going to preface this by saying you can readily come up with all kinds of scenarios or situations where a node will gain value. However, you gotta ask, how often will you find yourself in said scenario, and how much of a difference will that node make in the event it happens? Many of the nodes I'm going to go over are at best placebos that literally do nothing, straight up point traps whose uses are misunderstood, or meme builds that don't bear any resemblance to how the average person plays in this game. Here are some easy examples. Nimble Climber. At this point, it's near impossible to tell if it's my poor execution, bad frame managing, or if the skill legit does so little you can't tell the difference between 0 points and 5 points most of the time. Based on all available footage, the testing on out of these 3 mobility nodes, the only one that has a measurable impact on the points you put into it is Sturdy Ankles. Look, I didn't pick it because I think it's good. I just don't want to literally waste my points on my way to getting Carry the Momentum. Some nodes seem good on paper, just aren't tuned to do anything meaningful with your points, like Effortless Roll and Heroic Leap. Strong choices in theory, but testing has shown they just aren't worth the 5 points. Then there are the nodes that aren't clear in their description, misleading players on what they do. 3 deep breaths is an example I went over earlier, but another big example is Calming Stroll. The key word in the description is walking, meaning you have to go out of your way to hit the walk toggle button in order to get the benefit. If you're on controller, this just means you're pushing the analog stick just slightly, and I can see the use case for that, but most people, me included unfortunately, fell for the trap of thinking walking meant not sprinting. Then you have meme level nodes, Ready to Roll. Guys, if you didn't know, you can spam crouch as you're hitting the ground, making this node completely pointless. And then you have these melee-oriented nodes that don't gain any value outside of a very specific meme style of play. The ones that remain are nodes based on you being down, and you can spend a whopping 15 points on those instead of on nodes that will help you from being down to begin with. There are nodes that I was forced to spend points on because I needed security locker, so I made the best out of the nodes that were available, but I clearly would have avoided them if I could. Between some nodes being undertuned, some doing literally nothing, and some affecting aspects of play that bear no weight on what you do in raid regularly, I could easily make the case anywhere between 22 to 25 of the 45 skill nodes are a waste of points. But here's the good news. I wouldn't worry about this too much because Embark will likely be updating the skill tree. It's kinda obvious that they need to. When that happens, they'll likely give us the ability to respec because it would be the decent thing to do, and if they're gonna make worthwhile changes, they kinda have to. So what did I miss? Let me know down in the comments. If you've made it this far, leave a like, consider subscribing, and if you're interested in more Arc Raiders guides, check these videos out. And thank you to my channel supporters, with special shoutouts to my Florida Man Alligator tiered supporters, the Trinimal and Spectre. Ways to support the channel and Discord links down below. Thank you so much for watching till the end, and as always, good hunting.